start learning Vue.js. And I already prepared something for this. So I created this index.html, which is pretty empty. Wait, I zoom out. And you can see it's just boilerplate code. But the first thing we will do is open up the Vue.js.org page, so the official ecosystem and documentation info page. It's like where you can find everything you need to get started. And this is what we are going to do. We will just click on get started here and walk through the introduction to start learning Vue.js. And as you can see, the first thing we need to get started with Vue is importing Vue.js to our project so we can work with it. And there are two different ways of doing that. So we can take the development version, or we can take the production version, which is optimized for size and speed, but it is really just made for production. So if your app is done with building, you should include the production version of Vue.js instead of the development version, because the development version contains, I open it up here, I will open it up here. Oh my god, I'm not a native English speaker, I'm sorry. So this is the development version of Vue.js. As you can see, it's a bunch of JavaScript code, and it's really messy and really big. And because it's so big, it's a large file size, it will take pretty long to load for the user. And in the end, we are going to ship the whole thing to the user so he can view it in the web browser, as we are going to do it here. So you really should change to the production version, because the production version looks like this. Optimized, way smaller. But the big benefit of the development version is that we have some support. So there are warnings and messages and feedback, to say that we can call it feedback, I would say, yes. And this can really help us out when developing our Vue.js app. So let's really start with it. So I'm going to copy the whole development version code here, this snippet, and paste it into my head area of the index.html file, because this is the Vue.js code, so the code behind the scenes make it able for us to, in the end, write Vue.js code. We put it in the head, we place it in the head area, because it's really essential to us to be loaded first when we open up the browser window. So now we got the Vue.js imported here, and we can see the console log by default. I reload it again. So when you save this file and open it up in the browser, I do this via live server. It's a VS Code VS Code extension, not a Chrome extension, of course, a VS Code extension. Just look it up here, live server. There we go. I really can recommend it, because you just open up your index.html file and hit go live, and then you will have a live reloading server. Really awesome for developing web apps. So you can see a running Vue.js in development mode, because this is a console log of the Vue.js development script we are importing. Because behind the scenes, Vue.js is just JavaScript code as usual, so there are console logs as well, obviously. Okay, now we got Vue.js up and running, but now we are needed to write our Vue.js code we want to render in the Vue app in the end to our user. And we do this by, let's say I will do this. You can also create script file right here, but I will create a new JavaScript file, or let's say I already did it. It's here, main.js, and we'll import it at the end of our body part, because we are going to write some HTML code here, which is needed to be available before this script executes. So make sure your script where the Vue.js code you write is really at the end. Okay, now we got this main.js file, and we can validate it. It's working by, hey there, console logging something. And the browser window will reload, and we will see hi there as a console log. Awesome. We are good to go to write some Vue.js code. And as the guide suggests, we start by copying this code here, the div ID, so wrapping the message with this strange looking syntax. Let me explain it. When we pass it, so this is a usual div with the ID app, as you should know it from other frameworks or plain HTML. But this here is not official HTML syntax. This will not working so it will be just displayed as plain text, because HTML doesn't know we need this for Vue.js. Through our Vue.js instance we will create next, Vue will detect, okay, we want to display a message here from our Vue instance, and that's why this syntax looks a bit strange. It's not official HTML, but it's used for Vue.js to display something, to render something in the browser. Okay, now we got our HTML template, so we are good to go and to show something to the user, which we are already doing here. Also, you can wrap this in some h1 tag. It's really up to you. That's the whole thing of Vue.js, so you can really customize your templates, of course, because Vue.js enables us in the end to show or render dynamic output through JavaScript, through the whole Vue.js philosophy. Okay, let's copy this Vue instance and paste it, we don't need this anymore, into our main.js. What we are doing here is creating a new Vue instance marked here, new Vue, as you can see, passing an object to it. And we save the whole thing in the app variable. My God, the app variable. And the object needs a few parameters, a few things we pass into it. So a few entries in the end, because then this object will be passed into our Vue instance, as you can see. The first thing, really essential, is our element. Every Vue instance, so every Vue component we create, needs some HTML template, so the visual part of the component, as you can see here. This is our div. Everything that what happens in here is bound to our Vue instance or our Vue component we created here. This is why we say L, which stands for element, is #app. Hashtag means, as you know maybe from CSS, ID. So Vue looks for an HTML element defined as ID with the value app, which we got here. The next thing is the data entry in our Vue object. And in data, we define everything we want to be able to display to the user or in any other ways in the front end. Within this curly brace is also called mustache syntax. This is what our data object is for, and we fill the message in here, and if we now reload the window, it already reload, we see hello Vue. The strange looking syntax is not displayed anymore. When we look into the DOM, so what really is the rendered content, we see, okay, the strange curly braces syntax, mustache syntax is gone. If we open up the original code, we can see, okay, it's still there. But when this file executes, Vue.js will look for our element here, find this strange syntax, and will change it up and will replace the syntax, because it's kind of a variable. It's a placeholder, let's say this. It's a placeholder for what we have in entries in this data object message here. So Vue will replace this thing here with what is inside of our message. That's our output. And it's really up to you what you want to save here. We can say message hello Vue, let's say hello user, and let's give our user a name. Let's say name will be Max. Okay, nothing new happens here because we are not displaying the name. We can do it by, again, coming back to our mustache syntax and filling a name here. Hello user Max. And as I said, it's really up to us where we want to display the whole thing, with which HTML elements we want to wrap it. We can let's fill it into a paragraph or some italic font. It's really, really, really up to us. But keep in mind, this whole thing only works as long we use Vue.js. This is not official HTML. So if I remove the script, remove executing Vue instance, we will see this here, because HTML doesn't know this is supposed to be rendered by Vue.js. And that's the whole magic of Vue.js. So we created our first Vue.js component and filling in some data which we can render to the user, but that's of course not the only thing we can do it. In fact, we can do amazing stuff with this data, so we are really able to create some dynamic displaying in the front end to our user, create some amazing dynamic applications in the end, but we will have a look on this later on. So that's it for now. Stay tuned.